All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to IGTV. It is 10 o'clock in the morning, and we've got Randy Salminen from Access Communications, a virtual academy where they do a lot of teaching all around the country on closed circuit television and related topics to the cameras that are all over the industry today. So, Randy, today you're going to be talking about image usability. All right. Why don't you take it over?
Sure, thanks, Joe. So, according to a study by the Swedish police, 80% of the video that they receive they find to be unusable. And there's a number of reasons for that. So, I just want to talk a little bit about some of those things and some of the ways that you can overcome some of those issues. In the past, in these segments, we've talked a lot about resolution and pixel counting, and that's certainly very important in image usability, is to make sure that you have enough resolution to get the definition that you need. But there's also a lot of other factors that come into play as well. Some of the things that you deal with is in digital video is compression. Compression is compressing the image to make it smaller to save on bandwidth and storage space. And one of the things that happens with compression is that you lose image quality the more you compress your image. And so you're losing some of the usability quality of that video. And that's important to understand, because you can compress your image quite a bit and get a lot of savings, but you have to understand also what you're losing out on. And another one is frame rate. You may reduce your frame rate to also save on bandwidth and storage space. But as you reduce your frame rate, again, you could be losing valuable images that may prove to be necessary in the future. Another concern is exposure. So with cameras, you can have overexposure or underexposure. And if you look at where I'm sitting right now, I've got these windows behind me, so my exposure is probably not optimal in this position. Backlighting is certainly one of the things you want to try and avoid.
Yeah, you got it.
So exposure is very much controlled by the lens of your camera, and different lenses have different light sensitivity levels. And there's a couple of functions of the lens that are performed. One is the opening and closing of the iris, which is referred to as the aperture. And in low light situations, if you don't have enough light, the aperture has to open up wider to let more light in. And what happens when the aperture opens up wider is that you end up using parts of the lens that aren't optimal. So the edges of your lens basically are lower in image quality. And in bright situations, the iris will close down tightly. And in those situations, in bright light situations, you can end up with diffraction and blurring due to the aperture as well. Also, the other concern with the lens is your shutter speed. So the shutter speed is also very much determined by your light level. So the shutter speed is automatically going to slow down when you're in low light situations. And a slow shutter speed can result in blurry images if you have motion. So low light situations, you have to be careful of that shutter speed. Then in bright situations, you can get frozen images, which is optimal. So typically, the more light you have, the better image quality you're going to have. Another concern is your camera placement. So getting good image usability is very much related to the location of your camera. And one of the things would be the height of the camera. If you have your camera at a bad angle as far as height goes, you're not going to get a good facial description of your suspect. And also the angle, you want to be straight on to the image rather than at a side angle. Another concern is the mounting of the camera. If you're concerned about any vibration, if you're going to have road noise or any type of vibration, you want to make sure that the camera is mounted with dampeners to reduce that vibration, because that will take away from the image quality and the image usability. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was lighting. So lighting is very important. There's three factors to lighting that attribute to the quality of the image, and that's the direction, the temperature, and the intensity. So the direction, again, you want to avoid backlight situations where the lighting is behind the subject. But if you are going to have backlit situations, and in some cases it's unavoidable, such as entryway cameras, you want to make sure that you have a camera that has wide dynamic range, and that will help to adjust the contrast. Watch out for reflections. That's also related to the direction of light. And of course, outdoor situations are going to be the most challenging as far as light direction because the sun is constantly changing at different times of the day and different times of the year. So good luck with that. And then temperature. The temperature is rated by kelvins. So different light sources have different light temperatures. A light source can be cool or it can be warm in tone. Different light sources such as fluorescent lights give off cool tones, incandescents give off warmer tones, and they can also attribute to the usability of the image by taking away from the color that the actual image has. So you have to be careful with that. Typically cameras will have white balance, which allows you to compensate for poor light sources. And then finally, intensity. Typically, the more light you have, the better the image quality is going to be. But of course, again, you have to watch out for overexposure, and there's going to be much different levels of intensity if you're indoors or outdoors. A typical office environment has about 500 lux, whereas if you're outdoor in the middle of the day, you're looking at about 10,000 lux. So there's a big difference there, and you have to make sure that your camera is appropriate for either one of those environments.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny. We're up in the chat right now, and one of the guys is saying to me, does Randy realize he's backlit?
I did that on purpose.
Yeah, trying to make that point, huh? All right. So, Randy, you know, what you're getting into is a lot of the issues that the FBI and their lab down at Quantico, their closed-circuit TV lab down there, what they got into, right? A lot of these resolution issues, all right, you know, and that usability of image is right in there. So I think a lot of this will go to help those people out in the industry right now. So if they're wondering, all right, what do I do? How do I fix this? How do I correct it? You know, some of the things that you're talking about here are some of the things that they can troubleshoot and look for with their cameras and, you know, kind of negotiating, you know, which one works best.
Right.
To make the best quality and usable picture. Because at the end of the day, people are investing a ton of money in this stuff, all right, and a lot of time. And if they can't get some sort of usability out of it, what's the point? All right, so
Exactly.
thanks for giving the instruction there. We certainly appreciate it. It is good to see you. Relate to John. We hope to catch up with him next month. All right, and that's Access Communication and their virtual academy. All right, and that was Randy Salminen from Access, and we certainly appreciate you coming on the program today, Randy. Thank you once
Thanks,
again.
John.
Right, bye.